Republican Party has had the keys to the governor's mansion, has had the state Senate and the state House of Representatives.
People aren't choosing New
Okay,
York.
none of us are ever going to vote for you
When you
until you
vote with your
change.
feet, it matters.
When you change, we'll
When you
vote
vote,
for you.
people are voting with their feet.
I miss the old Republicans. I miss the old Republicans.
But you are you're being hit by the RNC.
Hey guys, so just wanted to come on here real quick and tell y'all a little story of a little something that happened a couple days ago. So, if you don't know, a couple days ago there were protests being held all across the country in protest of Elon Musk and his current administration. So, I actually went to one of those. It's called Tesla Takeover. And this protest was taking place a little bit closer to where I lived, so I decided to go there as opposed to another one that was about 30-40 minutes away. So, and that one was a lot bigger. But yeah, I didn't expect to stay that long. I wasn't really in a protesting mood, but I felt like, this is a really important issue and topic and moment in time. So I was like, okay, I'll show up, even if it's just for 30 minutes or something. And I got there, and it's like a small protest, as I kind of expected. It was like 20-30 people. I brought my sign that says, the Constitution says we the people, not we the billionaires. I pulled up with that, and everything was fine and chill. We had people honking at us in support, and we would just cheer back. And there were also some naysayers and people shouting Trump and Elon and whatever. So just standard stuff for a protest, at least. And so after about 10 minutes is when we noticed a group of men slowly approaching us. They came out of a metallic Cybertruck. We saw them pull up next to us, next to the protest, and come out with microphones and cameras. And this was quite from afar, so I'm like trying to make out who these people are if I can. And I noticed one guy was in a suit. There was another guy next to him holding a camera up to his face, and another guy next to them, face tatted up, everything tatted up, super random. And I was like, and as they came closer, I was like, is that Byron Donalds? I realized as I was editing that I didn't mention this for context, who Byron Donalds actually is. He is a sitting Republican congressman who is running to be the next governor of Florida in the upcoming election, and was even endorsed by Trump to become the next governor of Florida. So yeah, back to the video. And I recognized the guy next to him too. I was like, is that Benny Johnson, who is like this like super right-wing commentator and just creates content, just clickbait content. But yeah, they approached us. I saw some protesters, or I think it was like one of the organizers that went up to them just to see like what's going on here, see what they wanted. And they seemed to be going back and forth, nothing too crazy. I slowly kind of like inched up to hear what they're talking about. But yeah, this was super random to me because, again, like, this is a small protest of 20-30 people, and you decide to come to this protest as opposed to the one with over 500 people at the city hall in Orlando. And so that was really strange to me. So some organizers were talking to him and wondering what's going on. I overheard them asking him like what he kind of thought about this whole child labor bill that's possibly be passed that allows children as young as 13 to work overnight shifts on a school night with no mandatory lunch breaks to replace the illegal immigrant workers that would potentially be deported because of this administration's crackdown, as well as DeSantis' crackdown on illegal immigrants in Florida. So they are trying to pass this child labor bill to replace those legal immigrant workers with literal children. So Byron Donalds, of course, is full on in support of it, but just to hear him say it and like the lame ass excuse of, oh, When I was 13, I would have loved to work more hours on some kids need to pick themselves out their bootstraps type. And it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's the only rebuttal you have. And this is where I hadn't said anything, but this is where I chimed in because I was like, excuse me? You really would defend a bill that would allow children to work overnight shifts with on a school night, mind you, with no mandatory lunch breaks? Like you're seriously sitting here and defending that? And they were all defending it, his whole little posse, and it's shameless. It's shameless. And that's when, there's this clip that they put up.
Yeah, you are. Like, you're being hacked by the RNC.
And of course they don't put the part where he was defending child labor, but they'll put the clip where I'm reacting and I'm calling him a hack, a partisan hack, because he's only agreeing with this because his party's putting it out. And it's like they don't have true conviction. They're just grifting, they're pandering to their base and the party. And so I called him a hack. You see right through it. And in my confronting him about that, and again that's in the clip where I got a little loud because I'm not cool with child labor. Neither should anyone else be. But of course they use that to twist it, make us liberals look bad, and just chalk it up to that. Instead of actually engaging with what I said, and just because how I said it, they just shut it down and act like I didn't have a point. And of course they don't put what he said and then what I actually said on there on the Instagram, again, because they're just looking for the clicks and the likes. And I also called them grifters because they're coming here with cameras and all that, and they're just trying to get their clickbait. And I guess they got it because that clip has hundreds of thousands of views. And then in response to this confrontation and him not being able to really actually truly defend the case of child labor, he deflects and he asks me, well, you guys you agree with children being on puberty blockers? I'm like, what are you talking about? First of all, Democrats aren't a monolith. We don't all think the same, okay? And this is this is part of like the cultural wars. All they're doing is trying to sow more divide and conquer, so then they can get more votes and they can continue having power. Like, yeah, I literally said, I'm like, what are you talking about? Because how do we go from child labor to puberty blockers? But okay, if you want to say that, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't agree with children being on puberty blockers. And that's why I said Democrats aren't a monolith. We don't all think the same. And I want to break that stereotype that we all need to think the same to be on the same page, okay, about the broader issues that affect our day-to-day lives. Puberty blockers aren't affecting people's everyday lives. That's a cultural war that's been exacerbated and sensationalized to get people to feel outraged and distract from the bigger issue. And after I said, Democrats aren't a monolith, then he gravitated towards my sign. He's like, what is that about? So my sign says that the Constitution says we the people, not we the billionaires. And that's the whole point. That's the whole reason I'm at this protest. And Elon Musk isn't just the only billionaire that has been exerting his influence over our system. This is a problem that dates far, far back, okay? And so this latest version of billionaires exerting influence, it's just blatant. It's in your face now. But it's been going on for a long time. But I told him it's about advocating for taking big money out of politics, taking billionaire influence out of politics. And I immediately went into, this is an issue that both Republicans and Democrats have agreed on for a long time, or used to agree on. And yet there are people like him that only act to sow more divide instead of bringing us together, uniting us on the issues that we can agree on a bipartisan basis, which is how things got done in this country, ever get done in this country for the most part. And so I told him this is an issue that people on both sides of the political aisle have agreed on. This is not a controversial stance about taking big money out of politics. Americans have agreed on this overwhelmingly. I think there's this poll that was done. It's like over 70% of Americans agree we should be taking big money out of politics. Yeah, and then of course they turn to, George Soros. So you guys have George Soros. And that's precisely why Democrats and Republicans have always agreed, because each party has their own specific billionaire, that is influencing elections. So it's something that we were able to come together on. But instead, they even took that and tried to make it divisive. And like Benny Johnson's like, oh, George Soros. And I was like, yeah, Elon Musk, George Soros and Elon Musk. Yes, they both pour money into elections. You don't have the better billionaire. There are no good billionaires, period. And I don't say that as just like a talking point. It's true, especially when they're doing things like they're eroding our democracy by putting millions and millions of dollars to influence our elections and our politicians. That's why they don't get things done. I told him, people are so tired. I told Byron Donalds, I told him to his face, I said, look, because he was trying to do the whole, oh, Republican or Democrats, they have billionaires, they have the most billionaire donors. And I'm like, go to opensecrets.org. If you want to play that for a second, go to opensecrets.org, go to top individual donors. The top 7 have donated to Republican candidates. And that's just matter of fact. Go to opensecrets.org and see it for yourself. Top individual donors. And obviously, number 1 is Elon Musk. But that's neither here nor there. Just take them all out. Like, this is the thing. They love to play the game of dividing and conquering so then they can get more votes for their particular party. I feel like people used to understand this, and it's just lost on most people. And that's exactly what they want. They want division. So after this little confrontation, it looks like Byron and Benny Johnson and little posse gave up, and they moved on to other protesters. And one of them was a former candidate for Florida State House, Anthony Nieves. And Byron Donalds asked Nieves his opinion about why he feels like the Republicans are doing a bad job.
The Republican Party has had the keys to the governor's mansion, has had the state Senate and the state House of Representatives, and practically all of the judicial positions within the judicial branches, and nothing has been done. While I might not be aligned with all of the policies of the Democratic Party, they are definitely more in line with the principles that I was raised to have. Now, you'll hear everything about this and about that. 30 years. Democrats have no plan. As much as I would possibly at times want to blame Democrats for certain things, they have had, the Republican Party has had no blockage. There's been no abstention. So when you tell me it's just going to be a perpetuating lie that continues and continues for the next 25 years. If Democrats had either the state House or the state Senate, or the keys to the governor's mansion, or the majority of our state judges that were appointed by members of the GOP, then maybe I would be able to listen to you, sir, respectfully. But because a quarter century of no stoppage whatsoever, and I'm saying it, I'm being respectful. What's the question that you have?
What are the principles that you are talking about?
The principles are the same principles that the majority of Americans have on both parties, whether they're Democrat or they're Republican. And that is to end the nonsense, the lies. When you look at campaign season, you start seeing all the lies on television. But these are the same people that claim to be Christians. These are the same people that claim to be, speakers and leaders in their community. There are no leaders in any community when, again, for 25 years, the Republican Party of Florida has had the keys to the governor's mansion, the majority in the state House, the state Senate, and all of the judgeships that we have here in Florida. So how can any other party, besides the party in power for a quarter of a century, receive any blame? It can't happen, sir. And I respectfully ask you to look into that, to re-examine yourself and your party, and to be the champion of a new Republican Party that will value a change for what is to come in the state of Florida. I have nothing more to...
They haven't done anything. Oh, now is when they start a doge because they're grifters and they want to take advantage. Now is when they want to do their job that they could have been doing for the last 30 years, when this whole time they could have been dealing the money more efficiently. So yeah, so all this to say, the real issue is the corruption, is big money and billionaire influence in our politics. From Elon Musk on the right all the way to George Soros on the left. And by the way, if I was a paid protester, paid by George Soros, I wouldn't be here calling Soros out right now. Just want to put that out there. Just take them all the fuck out. We're done. Especially this young generation. We see through the partisan bullshit. We really do. And we are advocating for a better future. Because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want the fundamental aspirations, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness is what we want. And we want our government to work for us. And they want us, the establishment elite that is on both sides of the aisle, they want us to be divided so then we don't unite on the issues that we can agree on, that we can come together on. And that's the real conspiracy. And Congress has had a record low productivity in the last couple years. And you think that's a coincidence? It's not. The majority of our politicians can't even pass bills without there being some sort of conflict of interest. So they don't even introduce real consequential bills that would affect the lives of everyday Americans for the better. They don't even put those out because they know there's a fundamental conflict of interest there made by their big money donors and their corporate billionaire interests. They're bought out. The system is compromised on both sides. So let's stop for a second. Let's stop and actually think. If this pendulum of divisiveness can swing so far, we can swing it back to the other side and we can create a future. We can unite and create a better world for ourselves and our future generations. We don't get anything done by playing the political game. We don't get anything done for everyday Americans by playing this game of divisiveness. This little bit of traction that I can get to big money, I'm going to take full advantage of that because that is 100% the real issue that politicians never want to talk about and will never want to talk about because they're directly benefiting from it. And this is what I'm talking about. They're happy to play the political game as long as the people stay asleep. We got to transcend this hatred, this division for the other side and their viewpoints and all this and attack the issue of big money full force. Because it's going to take bipartisanship by the American people, left or right, to achieve this. And that's the only time things ever get done is when people can come together, no matter their differences, to get things done. So yeah, I started a movement called Keep the Rich Out of Politics, and I held my first ever organized protest a little over a month ago, where I call attention to this issue. And so again, I want to take this opportunity to do that again. And so the protest was listed as nonpartisan because it fundamentally is nonpartisan because it affects both sides of the aisle. But as you can see, only left-leaning peeps showed up. Understandably, I guess, because of what's going on in the current administration. But I even spoke to some Trump supporters that agree we should take big money out because it affects both sides. They just didn't show up to the protest, so it looks as if it's a solely left-leaning thing, but it's not. It just fundamentally is not. It's nonpartisan. Just follow along for more. My Instagram is crop for Keep the Rich Out of Politics _Orlando. And that's where I'll be posting updates, more information about how, lobbyists, billionaires, corporations, all of them have fundamentally restructured and just changed their society for the worse. And our system is not currently working for us. We do not live in a democracy, a representative democracy, as our forefathers envisioned for us and laid out in the Constitution for us. So yeah, I am bringing light to this issue, and if you're with me, I don't care who you vote for, left, right, center, whatever. This is a issue of up or down, and the working class versus the ultra wealthy. And so I think we need to reevaluate how we approach politics and also how the media is influenced by corporate and billionaire interests. They fund our media. So, of course, they are pushing the exact agendas and narratives that will distract us from the issues of seeing them and what they're doing. Yeah, anyways, stay tuned, and thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it.